say 5 years.
Morning. And you and I don't know each other, so again, just a full disclosure, I'm the executive director of the AMA affiliate at the time.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And I really appreciate the thoughtful approach both of you take on these issues. A couple points. First of all, one of the things I wonder about when we talk about this issue is whether the government as an employer should have additional strictures that other than private employers. I run our organization with 70 employees, and we bargain with our staff, and so I have a collective bargaining agreement, but I don't, I'm not a government, I'm not responsible to the people. So I do think there probably should be an additional level of scrutiny and procedures that governments as employers have versus private employers. But the second point is, and I think it really goes to the point of why we have to support all new teachers appropriately, and I think it was Barnett Berry-Alley and I were putting our heads together trying to remember who we heard say this. If every graduate from every top college in the United States went into teaching, it wouldn't be nearly enough to fill the positions, because teaching is the single largest workforce in the country, far and away, and particularly if you narrow it down to jobs that require a college education. It is a huge profession across the country. So I am one of those dinosaurs who went into teaching when there weren't as many options, particularly for women. And so there were more of us who were top graduates of universities and colleges who went into teaching. But regardless of that, if we only recruited the top universities and the top half of the graduates, there still wouldn't be enough. So how do we really get to supporting people who may not be the optimum candidate coming into education, but we've got to have some body, some adult body with those 35 kids trying to learn, in my case, English and French, or in Allie's case math. So any creative approaches you've seen from school districts or from states who've really taken seriously preparing everybody who comes in?
Let me answer the first part first, because this is a group that's really going to push you. If I'm not mistaken, you guys still don't have a charter school, do you? Is that right? Your first point is interesting, and I actually agree with it, which is when government hires people, it should have more rules associated with the employment. That's for a whole lot of reasons. But what's interesting is what charter laws taught us 20 years ago, and other states have learned it, and I'm sorry to say that you guys haven't adopted this yet, is it's from a wonderful term from this book, Reinventing Government, now about 20 years ago, which is governments can steer, they don't always have to row. That is, a government can decide something needs to get done without actually doing the doing itself. And so what this has meant in lots of different places and lots of different government functions is the government acting as a portfolio manager, saying that we need to make sure that health services are provided, or that we have libraries, or we have sanitation services. But other entities can do it. We're just going to hold them responsible. What charter schooling has done is that exact same thing in education, saying the government can make sure that schools are provided, but allow others to actually do the provision of the education. That is, non-profit organizations can run schools, and they can be nimble, and then we don't have nearly as many concerns, like was alluded to, about the government hiring practices. So I absolutely think that part of your portfolio of reforms has to be the adoption of a charter law, because if nothing else, if you will learn very quickly, immediately, oh, the district doesn't have, in the terms of the writer Ted Colby, an exclusive territorial franchise. That is, the district is not the only entity that can run public schools. Nonprofits can do it as well. And then what flows from that is extraordinary. So please, and you have to do charter. It's smart. You have to have good operators, you have good providers. It's not a cure-all immediately, but it's a path that's important. And to answer your last question, no, I've not seen a single state that yet has a great system of teacher recruitment, preparation, PE. Some are trying to get there, but no.
So let me just answer with regard to not necessarily the recruitment, Mary Ann, because I do think that's a challenge that some of us face. But I do think, I'll use, for example, Montgomery County, Maryland, where they've done a really great great job of supporting new teachers. They do a great job through a peer assistance and review program of supporting new teachers. It's not just about their assessment, but it's about supporting them as they move through the system. So irrespective of the quality of the person coming in from their college degree, they really provide support. And I think that's one of the things we should learn is whether you graduate from the top of your class at Harvard or in the middle of your class at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota, that we expect that you will have the same level of support and get the same level of results in impacting student learning. And we should expect that of all teachers who enter in a school district.
All right, I'm going to close the session. I hope we're more informed.
Well, we get two.
Tick. What's my choice here? One more?
Okay, thanks. I heard everybody speak about teacher recruitment. Obviously, you know, if you both seem to agree, there's an egregious case, system works, the teachers exited. But when you get teachers that are just not quite moving the needle as far as you'd like them, then that's a little more difficult. And that supposes that there's another teacher somewhere willing to come in and take the spot and do a better job. So if we can focus on recruitment and do better there. You mentioned money, you mentioned Teach for America. But then really it's keeping those teachers in, you know, more than 2 years so that they can really get effective and become better. And following up on her question, you all kind of say you're not really sure what the best way to do that. I just wanted to ask Brown, you could say, give us a couple of minutes. Felony Brown Claypool, who runs Teach for Kentucky, and every day he works on recruiting teachers, but not just recruiting them, getting them to stay here. And Brown, you should share with us what works on getting them in and then keeping them here for a career.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm a guest, so I want to be respectful of that status. But Teach Kentucky is Teach for America done right. Take that message back. So this is your iteration of what people imagined Teach for America was trying to do. So 10 years ago, I looked at Teach for America and said, this will never work in Kentucky with what our ambition is for our state. So we enroll people, recruit them all across the country. We had 352 applicants to teach in Kentucky through our program. They're enrolled in an alternative certification program, generally at the University of Louisville. We supplement what's being done in the formal curriculum at U of L with what is essentially community building and individual support. So one of the things we've done is add a retired teacher advocate corps. So a 30-year veteran is assigned to each one of our new teachers. This is a volunteer that goes into the classroom, works with them in the first 6 weeks. What really happens is friendship. So we're building this community around our new teachers in a way that, quite frankly, is hard for institutions to do. We're getting about 20 people a year to come. 70% are staying beyond their 2-year tenure. 55% have stayed through the 10-year experience that we've had. We've got 28 homes that have been purchased, 13 first children born in Kentucky, right? That's a signal of settling in. And what they're finding here is they're getting the incredibly important credential and masters, and now they're launched in a teaching profession. Kentucky provides them lots of opportunities to seek leadership roles and move forward in their career, so staying here becomes the obvious choice year after year. I do want to talk for half a second about Teach for America and these recruitment criteria. So this is a tough subject. We had 352 applicants. 58 of those we were not able to forward, and they were from Yale, Dartmouth, Cornell, Duke, Vanderbilt, Smith, the highest quality kids, and it's because of an unexpected impediment. People are having to go through a transcript evaluation that becomes a very significant block to the liberally educated student. So we have people with tremendous academic and intellectual ability but haven't taken the right courses yet. they had taken a few different courses, they would be spectacular candidates, but they don't fit in our College of Education's system of admitting them. So this is an impediment that can be removed. There's an elegant, important, simple way to change it. That's sort of shifting the way the admissions process works. It would have no cost to the state of Kentucky. So we could recruit those 58 people. Looked at another way, happened to get a list of the Teach for America candidates that were approved into their program, 265 of them. Only 32, given their major, would be able to apply to teach Kentucky and teaching Kentucky. So that cadre of spectacular talent nationally can't find its way into Kentucky classrooms easily, and I think it can be fixed.
We do have a little more time. We're going to extend this a little bit beyond.
You want to respond to that?
Go ahead.
So just so I understand, does that mean that Teach for America doesn't have a core that's in Kentucky?
Very easy.
Okay. So let me just,
They have a different exception. Legislatively given a different path.
okay. So I would encourage you to do whatever you can to try to expand Teach for America's footprint here. And, you know, well, I don't know enough about Teach for Kentucky.
I'm on the board too.
So I think you can never, there's no ceiling on how many great young people you should invite into the classroom. And what Teach for America has done, beyond, and we have a debate about whether or not 2 years is enough or whether they're having any impact enough on the classroom and so forth. What it has done in the transformational and the dramatic and the life-changing for public education is it has introduced into public education, especially in low-income areas, talented people who wouldn't have gone there otherwise and stayed there. And so the lasting legacy of Teach for America is people like John White, who's now the state superintendent in Louisiana, Chris Barbick, the head of the Achievement School District in Tennessee, Hyatt Henderson, the chancellor of schools in Washington, D.C., on and on and on. Many of these people not only stay in education, they stay in their communities where they were originally placed. If you want to get lots of high-quality people who care about your state, I personally wouldn't say things like Teach for Kentucky, Teach for America done right. They've done a whole lot of things right. To your second point about certification, absolutely positive. If you don't have the certification rules that align with everything else that we're talking about, and some states call certification, some call it licensure, some call it credentialing, whatever it is, whatever kind of initial obstacles you put in the way of someone getting into the classroom, if those are high and they're keeping great people out of the classroom, you need to revisit that. You also need to revisit the idea of whether or not someone can keep their certification if they're high performing. Last thing I'm going to say about this is I've been doing a project on high performing schools and high performing kids over the past 6 months, and the very best schools that I've gone to, the ones that are knocking it all out of the park, like competing internationally, every single one says the same thing. If we could not get content experts in our classrooms, and these aren't just high schools, they're often middle schools, content experts in our classroom, we couldn't do this. You need the best and brightest mathematicians to teach a 6th grader Algebra 2 if he or she's ready for it. To teach AP World History in 9th grade if the students are ready for it. Often those people, like you said, can't get into your classroom. They might have a PhD, but they haven't jumped through your other hoops. So if you want to get more people here and get the best people here to teach in your schools, you need to have a separate project on whether or not your credential and licensure rules are up to snuff.
So one of the things that Andy said that I think we have to keep in mind is that he said beyond the debate about what happens in the classroom, and I don't think there should be anything beyond the debate about what happens in the classroom. All of this, whether or not it's Teach for America or a regularly certified teacher, is about what happens in the classroom, not about what happens after that. So the extent to which any program impacts students negatively in their first, second, third, fourth year of teaching is a problem for kids. And so we just have to, we can't differentiate between what we expect of Yale graduates or graduates from St. Cloud State University of Minnesota. We have to expect the same thing. We have to expect results for children. We have to expect quality of performance. And if we have different expectations, then we're saying maybe students don't make this, we aren't as concerned about student performance as we say we were. So we should not make those kinds of exceptions. Whether, I don't care what kind of licensure program anybody goes through, frankly. What I care about is that they are equipped to work with students day one. Whether it's alternative licensure, no licensure, what if they're equipped from day one.
Let's jump in another question.
It was mentioned that when tenure started years ago, there wasn't a good way to evaluate teacher performance. And it's much easier than, a lot more data than you used to have. My question is, if tenure is through the job security program, does this new data show that evaluate teacher performance, does it go up or down after these teachers reach tenure, whatever that belief is in their state, either from the high performing teachers or the low performing teachers, once they reach tenure, does their performance go up or down?
So I don't think there's any data that says a teacher's performance go down. I think that would be an interesting question. Generally a teacher's performance would improve. There's a variety of different studies through the first 3 to 4 to 5 years, and some more in certain content areas. Some people, there's some studies out there that talk about what happens after about 10 or 12 years. I haven't seen, unless Andy, you have anything, I haven't seen anything that says that as of tenure, all of a sudden performance goes down. In fact, I know there's nothing that says that specifically.
Yeah, so all the research from Promoter does show that in general, teachers get better over their first 3 to 5 years. One study said it's 7 years. But the leveling off effect after that is what's remarkable. And so if you think about this, if all that research is true, if teachers aren't getting any better after year 5, and if we're paying them more and more every year, and then we lock them into their jobs being tenured, are we aligned with the research with what actually makes sense? But another thing that's true, a recent report came out from an organization called PMTPD, used to be called the New Teacher Project, called the Leap Year, that tried to get into what's happening with our early year teachers. And many of us, myself included, said for eons, teachers are going to start with their first year, but they're going to get better in their second year and third year. That's true, but only to an extent. There are some teachers who enter the classroom in year 1 who are outstanding, and there are some who stay outstanding. But there also are teachers who start off poor and never get better. So this general rule about what teachers look like in year 1 or year 2 and getting better is a general case, but the exceptions are actually much more powerful. You need to have evaluation systems that are nimble enough to pick up on that.
And I would agree that as teachers get into 7, 8, 9, 10 years, one of the things that our system has done as well as it should is really having quality evaluation systems all throughout a person's career and providing the kind of supports they need to continue to improve. You can't say, I would agree with this, you can't say just because a teacher was effective in year 1, they're going to be effective in year 5. You need to assess throughout their career, in my view, and provide professional development support. And ultimately, if a teacher is not doing her or his job, help them find something else to do.
Thank you.
I think we're going to
It's done. Yeah, we're right.
Okay. Well, I think what we've heard this morning is that there are some ways that we can begin to address this issue of tenure. There have been some specific ideas put on the table. I think food for thought for the Prichard Committee as we move forward. I think the second major issue that has surfaced, though, is that this is only a part of a larger system, and that Kentucky has a chance to get this right. We won't be the first state to jump into this tenure conversation, but we could be the first state to put these pieces together in a way that are meaningful and supportive, with tenure reform being a part of that system. So let's thank Andy and Bill.